Hello, and welcome to On Purpose. Today, I'm joined by Martine Rothblatt, the CEO of United Therapeutics, author and inventor. Welcome, Martine.
Thank you. So happy to be with you, Kristen.
Great. There's so many places we could start, but what I'd love to start is your childhood. One of the things that I find most intriguing about you is your optimism and your belief in human ingenuity. So, talk to me a little bit about what your first experience was growing up, believing you could solve any problem.
Well, I don't think I ever thought I could solve any problem growing up. That would be too much. Um, I would say I've been really blessed with amazing parents, and they were always very encouraging to me. They always taught me that I could reach any goal that I set for myself. I did have a personal experience in that my father was in a very bad car accident, and he had been a dentist, and then he was paralyzed after the car accident, so he couldn't practice dentistry. And after a year of just being in bed all the time and actually teaching himself accounting, trying to support his family somehow, he found out about an experimental back surgery at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And they air ambulanced him from San Diego, where we live, to Rochester. And then over a period of 2 weeks, they did first exploratory and then definitive back surgery on him and returned him to complete health. He rolled in and walked out of the Mayo Clinic and returned to his chosen career as a dentist. So he would always use that example with us whenever we thought, my sister and I thought that there was something that couldn't be done. He said, look, this is what technology can do, and you have to believe in yourself and don't give up. He said, if I gave up, would I be walking today? And we said, no, Dad, you're right. So thanks to my parents, I have a very positive outlook.
That's amazing. So, one of your great legacies, obviously, is as the founder of SiriusXM Radio. But your love of space and astronomy started, really early. Tell me what interested you so much about the stars.
I think I got interested in the stars. Again, first, my parents had me watch the moon landings, and of course, that was amazing. And then after that, it just seemed to me logically, if all of these stars were real, which of course they were, and all of the galaxies are so far away, which of course they are, then it just came into my mind that like we're living in a little tiny corner of a bedroom of a gigantic mansion that's part of like a whole city of mansions. Why would we want to confine ourselves to this little tiny corner and not explore the room, the hallways, the other rooms of the mansion, and then the other mansions in the city? So that just seems so logical to me, Kristen, that I began to devote myself a lot to astronomy. And then I wanted to do something practical. So originally I'd kind of hoped, maybe I could personally go to space. That seemed to be, outside the reach of like our times right now. So then I thought, well, maybe like the first people, they wanted to go across the ocean, but all they could do was to build a canoe and go in the water. So I thought of satellites as kind of canoes, and I launched a number of different satellites. And with each one, I would be there at the launch center. And when the launches were at night, Kristen, it was amazing because you actually saw like the bright fireball of the launch, and the light would get smaller and smaller. And then finally, you just see a little dot of light in space. And it's like you made a new star in space. And it turned me on tremendously. And then I would see all the good that was done. For example, with SiriusXM, more people have come up to me and hugged me and thanked me for in somehow or some way saving at least the quality of their life with SiriusXM than even with all the medicines that we make in our company.
Well, I mean, I happen to be one of the large fans of SiriusXM, have it in all of
Thank
my
you.
cars and in my home. So, we'll talk later about this, but I'm a country fan, so I'm a highway kind of girl. But I,
Excellent. Well, we appreciate your subscription, and we love making, oh, that's what, when you say like highway. So originally, when I came up with this idea, there was usually only you could listen to like top 30 rock or maybe one classical station and kind of all news. And that was all there was on AM and FM. And I would tell people there's a hunger for like, hundreds of different channels. And people would think I was crazy. They would say, like, why do you need hundreds of different types of music? I said, because there are hundreds of different types of music. And now it just gives me so much joy to see the diversity of channel offerings on SiriusXM.
Totally. One thing I'd love to talk about is so you had this vision, and from the stories that I've read, a lot of people weren't really believers, Martine. How did you convince them that, back then, everyone, well, radio's free. How did you convince them that people would pay for radio, and what was that like?
Kristen, sometimes I think I should write a book called 99 No's to Get a Yes, because I got like 99 no's, and one story that I like to tell in particular because it's so telling is, of course, I visited like investment bankers. I visited the owners of media channels who owned like networks of AM and FM radio stations. And people would say that, the day you launch your satellites, Martine, how many people are going to be listening? And I'd say, well, I will. But they said, yeah, that's the point. We have millions of people already listening to us. Why should we invest, hundreds of millions of dollars in a system that's going to have nobody listening on day one? So I would put together my business plan and I'd give them a discounted, cash flow analysis and show, yeah, on day one, it'll have a negative cash flow, but by year five, it'll be positive cash flow. And that positive cash flow will grow and grow. And overall, the net present value will be humongous. But people were very skeptical. And one of the individuals who I'm friends with was the CEO of SiriusXM from the period of like 2010 to 2020. His name's Mel Karmazin, and he was previously the CEO of CBS Radio and a very accomplished media executive. I went to Mel's office back in the late 90s when I launched Sirius, and I gave my pitch to him. And Mel said, Martine, do you see these piles of paper behind me on my credenza? And behind his executive seat, there was a credenza and it was stacked with paper. He said, those are all audience research reports. The radio business is all about audience research. You're going to have nobody listening to your station. Why should I invest in it? The funny thing that we both talk about and we talked about on the Howard Stern show was Mel ended up becoming the CEO of SiriusXM and a huge fan for it. I just didn't give up, Kristen. Finally, I found some investors who would believe in me. I was able to find discounted launches, discounted satellites, and
And
putting
who
it
knew there
all
was
together.
discounts on satellites now?
There are, yeah. You just play the competitive game. You go to the competitor and of the other guy, and you say, "Well, this guy's going to give it to me cheaper." So, and now SiriusXM is just a beloved customer. There'll be a launch actually next week, another launch. So the lesson from it, Kristen, that I know you know so well, is just you can't give up. You have to believe in your business. And finally, somebody will, kind of cut you a break and believe in you as well. I had thought that because I had launched previous satellite communications companies, that I would have the credibility for SiriusXM. But I think the line that most got people and really answers your question is I would say to people, do you pay for television? And a typical investor is going to say, yeah, I pay for television, cable TV, direct TV, whatever. So, well, why wouldn't you pay for radio? And it gave them pause.
So awesome. Obviously, that's one of your great legacies. But to your point on never taking no and using human ingenuity, after you stopped doing SiriusXM, you faced a family crisis that I think, in many respects, changed the course of healthcare for so many other people. Can you share what that was?
Sure. So while I was running SiriusXM, our youngest daughter, whose name is Genesis with a J, she was diagnosed with a fatal medical condition. and it's called pulmonary hypertension. And what happens is that the arteries in the lungs, they shut down like clamps. So the heart, when it pumps blood to the lungs to get fresh oxygen, the blood can't get through. And the patient begins to faint and fall down, and their lips turn blue. Um, at the time she was diagnosed, the mean survival from diagnosis was 3 years, less even than breast cancer. So it was horrible. Um, I was not a medical person. I was a satellite engineer, so I thought that surely people are working on cures for this. And I was shocked, Kristen, to find out that not one pharmaceutical company, nowhere, was working on any treatments or cures. And when I asked the doctors why, they said, well, there are only about maybe 3,000 people in all the US with this medical condition. And there's not enough of a business for a pharmaceutical company to justify the investment. So I decided, after a lot of beating my head against the wall, going to the library and like reading everything I could about this disease, that I guess I channeled my father and my mother, from my childhood, like you started the interview with, and said, I'm going to find a way. If there's anything left of purpose of my life, it's to cure Genesis. And she's a sweet and beautiful daughter. So I let go of everything satellites. I sold my stock in SiriusXM, and I did put all of my efforts into creating a cure for Genesis. And amazingly, Kristen, this is amazing even to me. Today, instead of there being 3,000 people dying of pulmonary hypertension, there are 50,000 people living with pulmonary hypertension because we keep everybody alive with our medicines. They do have to keep taking the medicines, and their disease often progresses through the medicine, but we keep developing better medicine. We're now on our fourth FDA approved medicine for pulmonary hypertension. And our daughter Genesis, she just celebrated with hundreds of our friends her 40th birthday as a happy, bustling young lady. And she also works at the company. And she says, I could do anything I know, but all the people in your company, Martine, they help me stay alive. So I want to do everything I can to help other people stay alive.
That's amazing. And for some of our viewers, you didn't stop there. As you think about some of the life-saving technologies that United Therapeutics has innovated, it has changed the life of so many. I wonder if you might share just a few of those that you're most proud of and most excited of that you've done and you're working on.
Yeah, so I think probably what I feel most excited about, other than saving my daughter and thousands of other people with pulmonary hypertension, the next one is that I had an opportunity to develop a cure for a type of cancer that afflicts only kids called neuroblastoma. And this is, again, I'm sure all diseases are horrible in their own way. This one is, I think, especially bad. And it's sad that it only affects kids, and it's sad that it's universally fatal. So we were able to find a molecule that was proven in a clinical trial to cure half the cases of neuroblastoma, which is just pediatric cancer. But it wasn't approved by the FDA. Nobody knew how to manufacture it. It was actually being manufactured in a hospital laboratory at Sloan Kettering Memorial Center in New York. So we took it, we did a proper clinical trial, we did a proper built a manufacturing facility, we got FDA approval, we got approval in other countries, and today over 1,000 kids a year take our medicine. 500 of them are permanently cured of their neuroblastoma. Their cancer never comes back. They live a perfectly normal life for decades afterwards. I feel really awesome about that. Another thing I feel really awesome about is that when I first did my research on pulmonary hypertension, I learned that it never came back again after the person got an organ transplant. But the problem was that there were so few organs, most people died before they could get it. So as I got our medicines up and running and the first one approved, and I got our daughter Genesis stabilized, I began to focus on, well, what's next? If she progresses through this, she's going to need an organ. So I've been able to create an organ manufacturing operation at United Therapeutics where we have hundreds of top scientists in multiple locations, literally manufacturing inside of laboratories kidneys, hearts, livers, and lungs. And just as of now, we've already, with FDA permission, saved five people's lives with hearts and kidneys. We have the first FDA-approved clinical trial to save people's lives with the manufactured liver. And we have built the first, what's called a good manufacturing practices or GMP production facility for what are called xeno kidneys and xeno hearts. These are genetically modified pigs that have had their genes modified in such a way that the organs won't be acutely rejected when transplanted into people. So we'll be able to start producing hundreds of xeno kidneys and xeno hearts as early as the end of this year.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely unbelievable. And I think what's so inspiring to me is that you've taken so many things throughout your life that many people thought were impossible, and you've not just so they were possible, but you've brought them to life, and you've done so making sure that sustainability was in the center of each things you do. So share with me a little bit of why sustainability was so important to you as you thought about each of the different businesses that you were in.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. So they actually, the two parts of your question connect. My older daughter, Sunny, one time she got me a t-shirt that it said impossible, and it had like a red line through it, and beneath it, it said, I'm possible. Like she broke the
Yes.
impossible into I'm possible. So I keep always channeling that. And starting about 10 years ago was when my awareness of climate change and stuff like that began. Probably when the Pope issued something about like, everybody needs to be, cognizant of their carbon footprint. So I asked my teams, is there a way that we can manufacture our medicines and grow our herds of genetically modified pigs in a way that has a lower carbon footprint? The average age of people in United Therapeutics is probably around 30 or so. So I think this generation of millennials, they've got like more of a globalistic lookout on everything. So they were like kind of all in, like, yeah, we could do the good thing and the right thing at the same time. Like saving lives is the good thing, but doing it with a lower carbon footprint, that's also the right thing. So we built in the building I'm talking to you right now in Silver Spring, Maryland. We built a new headquarters called the Unisphere, which is the world's largest zero carbon footprint building. All of the energy, the heating, the cooling, the lighting, the power for this building comes right from its site where we're located. Down in North Carolina, where we manufacture a lot of our medicines, we built the world's largest zero carbon footprint pharmaceutical refrigerated warehouse. So all of this refrigeration takes a lot of energy. We do all of that with Tesla Megapack batteries to store solar power. So, and then finally, with our organ delivery, planes are great and amazing. And I'm a pilot, an airplane pilot, seaplane pilot, helicopter pilot. I love to fly. But we don't even count our gallons by hour. We call it pounds per hour, and we burn a lot of fuel. So I began to think as a Tesla owner, going all the way back to my Roadsters of 2008 and 2009, is there not a way that I can use like an Elon Musk approach to decarbonize aviation? And again, many people thought it was impossible. And I received a lot of objections, but I channeled my parents again. I said, I can do it. I channeled my daughter, I'm possible. And we built the world's first zero carbon footprint helicopters. I personally piloted one to a Guinness World's Record for distance and height and speed. And now we're building a fleet of zero carbon aircraft that will deliver the organs we manufacture to people without us having to spew all the carbon from the helicopters we use.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. I always love seeing you at board meetings, and I always love seeing your wife Bina, who has been by your side for decades. Talk to me a little bit about, how she inspires you to continue to learn and to grow.
So Bina is like the most amazing partner for me. I would say there is nothing I do by myself. Everything is done by what we call Bina, the two of us together. She is what we call a fixpert. She could fix everything. She's an incredible aesthete, meaning that she makes beautiful patterns. She's a woodworker, a painter, an artist, a gardener, a landscaper. She's a kind of a person that just like waves a magic wand and everything becomes better, including me. So,
It's pretty helpful.
so yeah, it's really I feel blessed, in so many ways, Kristen. First, to have a partner. We've been married over 40 years. Secondly, to have my health, to have great parents, be in the United States of America, greatest country in the world, be surrounded by so many good and wonderful people. It's just like I must have done something good in a previous life because this one is beyond awesome.
Well, you're giving back a lot to a lot of people. One of the other things I loved for fun as I was reading your background is that I think when you were younger, you actually hitchhiked across the US playing country music. Well, I would love to play country music, but I'm not sure about the hitchhiking part of that. And I believe you also have multiple pets and some chickens. So if I was to visit one of your homes, what is life like at home at Martine and Bina's house?
Well, it's controlled by Bina, my partner. She's definitely the one that controls everything with regard to the house. But she raises her chickens. She knows all about the different types of chickens. There are chickens that you raise for eggs, and there's chickens that you raise for meat. I love fresh food. Both of us love fresh food. You'll see at our houses gardens with lots of fresh produce. She does have a team of people to help her and animals around our neighbors. We have llamas, goats, sheep, donkeys. We love nature and animals. And actually, my personal favorite thing to do is just to be hiking in the woods.
Oh, that's amazing. So, it's hard to imagine what's next. I mean, from satellite communications to biotherapeutics to aviation, what's one of the next big challenges you want to take on?
I'm really, really interested in artificial intelligence and in being able to, I mean, we all kind of have to come to grips with the fact that we are mortal, that our bodies will die out. And no matter how many medicines and organs myself and my colleagues in the biotech industry make, sooner or later, people's bodies die out. Now, there are amazing ideas that the essence of our soul, kind of what's all of our human consciousness, can actually be uploaded into a digital substrate. And that sense of yourself, the digital nature of your consciousness, can be continued even if your body expires. And perhaps the best exponent of this is Elon Musk with his Neuralink company, where he's now able to directly tap into people's brains and get versions of them running literally online. At the same time, within our company, we are very big in regenerative medicine. We grow kidneys from just cells, from a person's cells. We've taken a patient with chronic kidney disease, taken one of their cells, turned it back into a stem cell, and then redifferentiated it into a kidney cell that we're going to use to give them back a kidney that they will not reject and they will not need any immunosuppressants. So it doesn't take a huge leap to say, well, if you can regrow a kidney and regrow bones and regrow skin, and how far away is it to regrow a whole body? And then maybe that digital consciousness of yours that Elon had kept stored in the cloud somewhere can actually be downloaded back into a freshly generated body. And that instead of life being a one and done, it could be maybe like a one, pause, and then do it again. And that's an amazing dream, of course. That's something that, will take, many, many decades to achieve. But I think to say it would be impossible would be kind of contrary to what humans have already achieved.
Martine, you are amazing. You are an incredible inspiration to me, and you've made such a difference in the health and happiness of so many people, both medically and I will just say as a SiriusXM subscriber, just the joy that music provides me. So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for joining us today for On Purpose. I look forward to seeing you again next time.